Hey guys, I'm here with Mike Salemi, our Master of Sport Kettlebell champion, and wanted to kind of take you guys through some anti-rotation techniques that will really help with your athletics. Anything from stick, like let's talk about hockey, let's talk about golf, sports specific in that direction, or just sports in general. This will definitely help with that. So what exercises are you going to show us today, Mike?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go over a modified version of the single leg Romanian deadlift. Now, I think anti-rotation training is phenomenal for all people to add in, especially rotational athletes, because most people focus on the power component, whether it's golf, hockey, baseball, on how to express power very, very strongly through rotational movements, but most people don't focus on the anti-rotational component, which is really, are you able to prevent and or slow rotation from happening in the body, especially when we don't want it to happen, especially in contact sports, for example.
How are you going to regain composure and stability? So these are all very important things. Now we have a dowel bar here, and we also have a tape line behind you, and kind of take us through like your specific process with this and setting up this exercise.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I tend to see with any type of single leg Romanian deadlift or even single leg deadlift, the most important is that the pelvis remains stable and remains square. But before you get to that phase, you need to make sure that you know how to hinge properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the stick, and this is going to be essentially our self-teacher. So what I like to do is I like to take the stick and I set it so that one hand is between the small of the neck, and then the bottom hand fits just snugly underneath the small of the low back. Your goal should be to remain 3 points of contact, the back of the head, the upper back, and the sacrum, while you don't lose any spinal curvatures. So I'm going to use a hip width stance, unlock the knees, and I'm going to push my butt back as far as I can, loading up the posterior chain in this very strict bend pattern, which is very applicable to many sports, and I'm going to squeeze and get tall at the top. Once I've drilled this in, and this is automatic, then what I can do is I can actually elevate one heel, keep the pelvis square, get nice and tall, and do the exact same thing. So now we're working a little bit more of a single leg balance component, which is going to be very important and very critical as we move to the single leg Romanian deadlift.
And you can see how you're maintaining those 3 points of contact that whole time, which is important, so that way your body's communicating properly through that whole movement. So things can get away from you, so that's a great way to kind of teach that. Now, as far as like going through the Romanian deadlift portion of it, some people will do this with their legs suspended. I see that you kind of drag your way back, which is kind of a cool addition to that with the line you have established here. So
absolutely. I mean, the whole theme of kind of this exercise is really pelvic stability. So the line can give you a beautiful guide, and especially the line, the foot that trails the line, as you're going to see momentarily, it's just a great guide, because what happens, a lot of people when they do a more in-depth progression of this, like a single leg deadlift, they get all squirrely.
Right. You see that rotation happen quite a bit to try and pull into and centralize that process.
Which is absolutely what we don't want.
We don't want that.
So what I want to do is I'm going to take that same position that we just drilled. I'm going to get tall, get long. One heel is going to be lifted, and with the pelvis nice and level, I'm going to chop the hips by pushing the butt back. From here, I'm going to find the kettlebell handle, and I'm going to set the shoulders by depressing the shoulder away from the ears, activating the lat. Now we got to set the abdominal wall. So in order to do that, I'm going to take a deep belly breath in, engage and flatten the abdominals, and make sure I'm getting tall all the way from the crown of the head through the tailbone. From here, I'm going to start the first rep by standing tall. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my opposite arm as a counterbalance, and I'm going to allow the back leg to drag as I push that butt back as far as I can to a reduced range of motion, as would be compared to a full single leg deadlift.
And you can see how still you're maintaining, even with your eyes are sort of coming down, so that way your head's nice and stabilized in that position. You're not leaning forward and reaching. Your shoulders are still nice and retracted, and the hips are hinging. So all these things have to happen simultaneously for you to keep that straight line going back, right?
Absolutely. And what you're really trying to pay attention to is that the pelvis does not open up.
Right.
Making sure you have a nice stable pelvic stability, lumbar stability, and just overall core stability is key for any sport.
Right.
So especially when it comes to optimal force transfer and force generation from the lower body into the upper body.
Everything's derived around those hips. So let's optimize that process a bit more by also considering anti-rotation.
Absolutely.